All right. Welcome to another edition of Shabbat Lounge. This is Matt.
And Jake here.
And we are coming to you maybe with the sound of a baby crying in the background.
That's right.
So that just happens, sometimes, especially when there's small children around.
Sometimes babies cry.
Sometimes they cry. And, you don't even know why they cry. It's a mystery.
That's right.
If you know why they cry, please put it in the comments. We'd love to know.
Yep, we can't get this to stop.
Well, we're here doing a series on seed war, and it really starts with the premise of trying to figure out the battles we see at the beginning of the book. Are they connected to the battles at the end of the book? And that's something we're kind of exploring. This is maybe 4 parts to a series, and this is the second one. So if you just found this one, it might make more sense to go listen to the first one.
Right. So I think we need to hit like the full display there on the on that part there. There we go. And then and this is part 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that put us at you pushed over play button.
So this yes. So that's sorry. Talks amongst yourself.
Yeah, so this is going to be part 2. So go check out, if you haven't seen part 1, go check that out first. And then if you're new to Sabbath Lounge, go check out the website, sabbathlounge.com. And there's Torah portions on there. There's different studies we've done on there. There's some apologetic stuff on there, a bunch of interviews. So if you're into all that, that's where you can find it.
We also have a link to friends and family that we follow, and we do have some young ladies that I'm related to that have a podcast that they started called Compound Interest, about living life on a compound as young families, and so check that out as well. So, but anyway, we appreciate and we're glad that you're here.
That's right. So the first part...
one thing I would say is we are trying to publish these typically on Saturday morning on Shabbat around 9 a.m. CST. But those faithful followers, we appreciate all of you guys that are consistently there waiting on us. And sorry we aren't there all the time. Jake and I got busy, crazy lives sometimes, and sometimes we don't have time. So... here we are. We got time today.
That's right. So, and then, so part 1, if you didn't see that one's, to remind the audience, is about, kind of the lead up of the different families, right?
Yep.
That might be playing parts in the, in these wars. Yeah.
Who are the enemies of Yah, basically, that were occupying the land and kind of breaking them down and trying to figure out who they are and how we might see them at the end in Revelation, if there's a connection between these two. And so this part 2, we're going to talk mostly about Sidon or Tyre. So, because that is where I started with this discussion, is looking at prophecies of Egypt and prophecies of Tyre, and then I kind of worked backwards. And so to get to Tyre, this is part of the groundwork to kind of understand who is Tyre, where do they come from,
right?
And I guess that's how you say it in the South. Tyre. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's like the black stuff the dinosaurs died in.
Yes, the tar pits in LA.
Yeah.
So here we are with Seed War Part 2. So we've got Sidon. So we're going to take a look at that. And so when you look at the Strongs, this comes straight from the Strongs. Thank you, Blue Letter Bible and Strongs. This is totally where we got that. We're not even hiding that. But Sidon means hunting, ancient Phoenician city on the Mediterranean coast north of Tyre. So Tyre and Sidon were sister cities, and so they were located really close to each other in kind of the same area of the world, and so very closely associated with each other.
Yeah, and I think interesting here, this strong definition also includes the root word from H6679 in the sense of catching fish. So I think that's pretty interesting, especially they're on a coast, and they're just the way it ties into the different prophecies pertaining to fish and that kind of thing. Fishes as people.
Mm-hmm. And like the hooks in your jaws kind of prophecy.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I believe we get to that. And also, you've noticed we've cited the sources. This is a PDF available on our website. So you can go look at it. You can look at our sources. You can click the links. Hopefully those links are still, will be accurate for a while. But anyway, we encourage you to check it out and just and verify. Trust but verify.
That's right.
So all right, we'll move on. And so we see this, Jake, in Genesis 28:6.
All right, Esau learned that Isaac had blessed Jacob and had sent him away to Padan Aram to get a wife from there. He learned that Isaac had blessed Jacob and had commanded him not to marry any of the Canaanite women.
And as we all know, this is a pretty important commandment, and it didn't go that way too well.
No,
not for Esau. So Isaac, Isaac did the right thing, but Esau was like, whatever. I mean, he goes straight there, and that's who he marries. So I mean, he doesn't even try.
So I think at this point, so later on in the story, Esau kind of has a almost, I don't want to say repentant moment, but
maybe
he has a part where a time where he's like, this event happens with Jacob, and he's like, man, I really gotta try now. So it almost juxtaposes Jacob following the will of the Father through the Spirit, and Esau is kind of the guy that is trying to do things under his own power and failing because the flesh is weak. He's actually interested in himself, and he's run by the flesh. And so he's by his own will going to make this situation better because he's already married to a Canaanite woman.
Yeah.
And so he goes out and ends up marrying some other folks that aren't so great either. So there's just kind of that juxtaposition there between Jacob and Esau, and how that all ties into these Canaanite women.
Yeah, for sure. Bad news. And so Esau is warned not to marry the Canaanite women. He does what he wants, and he does. Legend has it that he married a Canaanite giantess and gives birth to a new race of people, the Amalekites. So, and I didn't cite the source on there, because that's kind of like a legend.
Okay.
And we apologize if our video is delayed, but I don't know how to fix that. It's called Slow Internet, Country Internet.
Yeah, so it might look like a bad karate movie.
That's right. Put a 1 in the comments if you have country internet. Country with a K.
That's right.
Slow internet. So in Malachi 1:2-5, wasn't Esau Jacob's brother, declares Yahweh? I loved Jacob, but Esau I hated. I turned his mountains into a wasteland and left his inheritance to the jackals in the desert. The descendants of Esau may say, we've been beaten down, but we will rebuild the ruins. Yet this is what Yahweh Tissaboth says. They may rebuild, but I will tear down. They will be called the wicked land and the people whom Yahweh is always angry. You will see these things with your own eyes and say, even outside the borders of Israel, Yahweh is great.
Yeah, that's an interesting little notation there that he's showing that even though the whole, most of the story centers around Israel and that land, he's like, don't worry, I'm everywhere also. I'm not just contained within the boundaries of Israel and following these people around.
Yeah, also interesting that this is like a done deal. We talk a lot about free will with people, and you're like, well, where's their free will? Because he's saying, he's calling it right now that this is the people he's always angry with. That's very strong terms.
Yeah, Esau I hated.
Yeah.
And then when you look in, I believe it's Romans 9, right? He talks about how this is in the womb. Esau he hated. Yahweh hates? Yes, Yahweh does.
And he hates the Nicolaitans, and we studied that a while back. So pretty interesting things. He does have some things he hates. This is one of them.
So check that out too. And then another thing here is, to Matt's point on the free will, your free will really only extends to the point of Yahweh's sovereignty. So both of those things have to exist at the same time.
Yeah. And I still think, even though, it's complicated, because even though these people may have, been in this lineage, if they would have turned and repented, I believe it's possible. But also there's a thing where it gets complicated. If they are this contaminated race of mixed seed that we weren't supposed to mix, the argument is it redeemable? And I think that's what you see possibly. This is why it's so important, because we see this seed mixing again in Revelation.
Right.
And it seems important that we don't. And people take this weirdly, and they go into genetics, and they go into races. And that's not what any of this is.
Yeah, I don't think this is a race thing.
No, but people make it, and they'll say this race is this and the superior or whatever, and that's dumb, because he made it's basically our races are a reflection of the dirt that's on the ground, because we're made from dirt, and he made people. It makes sense that he made people with different pigmentation, just like there's different colors of soil all around the world.
Yep.
So. That doesn't mean it's just dirt. We're just people,
we're just dirt piles.
That's right, just dirt piles. But definitely interesting. If you've never studied this concept of Esau and Jacob, I feel like we talk about it a lot, but it is an interesting concept, and one it's worth the rabbit chasing.
Right.
I don't believe it's rabbit chasing. It's helping you understand Yah's character.
Right. And just one more point on here, one more shameless plug here, while we're talking Jacob and Esau, that dynamic there. Go check out Matt's book, Becoming Jacob, and you'll see kind of this difference between Jacob and Esau.
That's right. Yes, thank you. All right. Genesis 26:34-35.
All right. When Esau was 40 years old, he married Judith, daughter of Beeri the Hittite. He also married Basemath, daughter of Elon the Hittite. These women brought Isaac and Rebekah a lot of grief.
So that gives you a lot of insight of what Esau did. So, it doesn't sound like he married women of his tribe or his lineage that he was supposed to marry. He marries outside of the camp and brings a lot of grief.
Right. And the Hittites, they show up a lot. We talked about them in the first section also. This is also the group that Abraham got the tomb from to bury Sarah. Right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And then, yeah. So, obviously, Basemath wasn't probably the brightest, but maybe that's what was causing them such grief.
Maybe.
She was bad with math.
Maybe.
And costing
in that base
Esau
math.
money.
Yep. And then Genesis 36:1-2.
This is the account of Esau, that is Edom, and his descendants. Esau chose as wives from the women of Canaan, Adah, daughter of Elon the Hittite, Oholibama, daughter of Anah, and granddaughter of Zibeon the Hivite.
So definitely you see Canaan and Hittites and Hivites.
Right.
So it seems like these are Canaanite women. So definitely does not seem like he obeyed his father and his parents' wishes.
Right.
And, when it says it causes them grief, most likely, they think about what causes grief in families today. It's no different. If you bring someone in your family that's very different from you, and not just different is not bad, but if they don't have your values,
Right.
and you're a Christian family, and you marry into an atheist family who is all about making money or something, you're gonna have some conflicts between those two and how they raise their children. It's all gonna be it's always gonna be a rub. So it matters who you marry.
Right. Yeah, so when you're getting to know someone, those principle type questions should probably be some of the first things you discuss. Otherwise, there's really no sense in carrying on with the getting to know each other better if it's not gonna work out.
Yeah.
In terms of finding a wife or a husband, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I've known really convicted men and women through the years that were single and ready to mingle, and they'd meet another young person, and they would kind of ask them questions, and there were a couple of things they were looking for that were absolute required for them to find a mate. And if that boy or girl didn't check it, they let them know by date 1, date 2, because they weren't messing around. They felt like they had a limited time to figure this out, and they didn't want to waste their time or their own time trying to figure it out. So
right.
I admire people that do that because that's true. There've been a lot of people that get married that maybe they should have never got married because they just weren't on the same page and never could get on the same page.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times that comes from, like, when they get together, they put their best face on that they can, and then everyone just wants to have fun, so it's just fun times, and you don't get into anything important, so you don't really know each other.
Yeah.
And then that causes trouble later on.
Yeah. And, it's easy to pick on Esau, but we see versions of this still today.
Yeah.
So we look at Oholibama and trying to figure out, word connections. You're going to see some interesting word connections here, I believe, with other languages that you may or may not know. So this one, as you break it down, tent of the high place and Edomite chieftain. So right there, you see that this is connected to Edom, Edomites.
And high places. Yeah.
So definitely interesting. And then the next one, we went out of I don't know what we did, Jake.
I think you may have clicked on the Strong's link.
I clicked on the Strong's link. Yeah. So was not visible to all. There we go. So this one, same one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I clicked on the wrong. Well, that's weird. I thought we had 2 in here. Maybe not. Okay.
Yeah, there's another one coming up.
Ezekiel 23, 4-5. The older girl was named Ohala, and the younger girl was named Oholibah. I married them, and they gave birth to sons and daughters. Ohala represents Samaria, and Oholab represents Jerusalem. Ohala acted like a prostitute. Although she was my wife, she lusted after her Assyrian lovers who lived nearby.
That's bad news.
So this is an interesting scripture, and I believe there's a connection. Look at the words here. Look at how these things are spelled. It's just kind of interesting. So, but do we think this is literal, Jake, or a parable? I tend to think this is a parable. Is it a literal person that he's describing? I think he's painting a word picture of the whoredom of Jerusalem and like setting this up between.
Yeah, I think that's things. Definitely the point you're supposed to get out of this.
Mm-hmm. And could there have been these people named this? Yes.
Yeah, this could have been a literal situation. Go back and read the actual context for this, and you'll get that answer, I believe. But the point that he's making is more about Israel than, hey, I'm just throwing my wife under the bus here in this writing.
And definitely with Ohala, goes after Assyrian, but that at the moment right here, this is that's Samaria, and saying that Samaria lusted after their Syrian lovers, and that goes back to the blessings and curses at Mount Ebal and Gerizim, because when you look at Mount Ebal and Gerizim, well, what do you find? Well, the Sumerians worshipped him on one mountain, and then Judah, if you will, worshipped him on the other mountain. And they're kind of split up to the tribes, and it's almost like you can go back to... I encourage you to go look at that, because you can go back to the Mount of Blessings and Mount Curses when Moses and then later Joshua kind of do the same thing, and they line everybody up and they put people in camps, and it's kind of like all the people on the Sumerian side.
They didn't put them in camps like that.
Yeah. Well, they have them go stand on one side of the one of the mountains or the other mountain, and it kind of goes with how they fall and what they do later. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and didn't they find, it's been a little while since I've looked at it, but if you go look at some of the archaeological stuff on Ebal and Gerizim, I believe there are like altars and stuff put on them.
Yeah.
And I think they even determined who put the altars there, and I don't think it was the tribes.
Yeah.
I believe it was the Sumerians.
One of them.
Yeah.
I mean, one of them is the mountain that's when Yeshua meets the woman at the well, and she says, my forefathers say that you worship here. And that was because she was a Samaritan, and there was a Samaritan tradition that they worshipped on that. I don't remember. I think is it Gerizim? I think that's what they worshipped on. So anyway, there's to me, this is an interesting connection that runs deep and wide through Scripture. It's not just like this is the first time.
So you're saying when we're seeing Assyrian here, this later on is Samaritan, what we would commonly know as the Samaritans.
Not necessarily no, I don't think so. The Assyrians,
okay.
Were a very specific different race of people, but it's saying that it represents Samaria,
right?
And so, if you tie Samaria and Assyria together, that's not a good thing.
That's right.
So if you get listed like that, that's bad. I know that. It's not good for you. It's not favorable. So anyway, we're not claiming to have all the answers to any of this, but we will come back and look at this pronunciation, and the things that stand out in my thinking is, first off, in Hawaii they say aloha, and so it's interesting to look at the Hebrew connections between some of these words, even other languages that are connected. So just a side note, but this goes back to that other one we showed where it talks about woman of the tent. The tent is in her. And then this says Jerusalem is adulterous wife of Jehovah. So it's a metaphor. So which is an interesting connection, this tent connection, which we see here. Which is a literal wife of Esau. So it does make you think that, is this the same? The spelling isn't the same, but it, I don't know, seems to possibly be connected.
Close, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And just with the way there's a lot of interesting connections for sure between these words.
Yeah, and down here it says a symbolic name for Judah.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely interesting. Weird the tent is in her. That is it fits so perfectly with the analogy he's trying to make, because it's the it follows the whole prostitution thing. The tent is in her. That's where they want to be. They're drawn from their first estate, essentially, not calling them the angels or anything, but they're drawn from their first love, Yahweh, to this other woman, and it takes their entire attention is and what they're after, and so they go, live with that instead of living with Yah, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. And then Aloha here, her own tent. Samaria is an adulteress with Assyria. So, so these, you kind of have to go back and forth here because you have two different words and they're very similar.
Yeah.
So, and it goes back to that, very similar, two different words. And anyway, so this says, did I go to the wrong one? Okay. Her own tent, Samaria is an adulteress with Assyria.
Okay. I think I want to revise. Go back. I want to revise what I was saying there, based on. I was thinking that this was the adulterous one, but this is actually the one representative of Jerusalem.
Yes.
So when we say the tent is in her, to me now that's saying the actual tent.
Yeah.
Is where it should be.
Sure, but I do believe it's an adulterous wife as well. So I believe if you read the rest of Ezekiel 34, it's not.
Yeah, go back to the verse again.
Yeah. This one, we just don't have. We didn't put the rest of it there. So
okay, yeah. So
that's a study. Something for you to. Did I say 34? I meant Ezekiel 23.
Yep.
Go read it. It'll help you. But it's definitely a fascinating scripture if you've never read it. And so basically I just looked at the Strongs on these words, and that's how it does it.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's almost like these are phonetically spelled. And I, that makes me think that it's the same. But if you look at the phonetic spelling of those and how it is here, it definitely makes sense that they're connected.
Yeah. So go back one. Okay, 168. And now go ahead to the next one. 168 here. Yeah, so they are connected for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and that you can look up the Strong's number there, but just an interesting thing to look at. And then this one also has 168.
Yep. Idolatrous sanctuary.
All right, so now we'll look at Edom's fall, and this comes from Obadiah.
All right. This is the vision of Obadiah. This is what Adonai Yahweh says about Edom. We have heard a message from Yahweh. A messenger was sent among the nations to say, "Get ready, let's go to war against Edom. Edom, I will make you the smallest of nations. Others will despise you. Your arrogance has deceived you. You live on rocky cliffs. You make your home up high. You say to yourself, no one can bring me down to earth. Even though you fly high like an eagle and build your nest among the stars, I will bring you down from there, declares Yahweh. If thieves or looters come to you during the night, won't they steal only until they've had enough? You will be ruined."
And so also have to note here that Edom is Esau's descendants.
Right.
So just in case. And then, but you, Esau, will lose everything. Even your hidden treasure will be looted. All your allies will force you to leave your land. The people who are at peace with you will deceive you. Those who eat food with you will set traps for you, and you won't even know about it. On that day I will destroy the wise people in Edom and take wisdom away from Esau's mountain, declares Yahweh. To man, your warriors will be terrified. Everyone in Esau's mountain will be slaughtered. Because of the violence you did to Jacob, your relative, you will be covered with shame. You will be destroyed forever. While you stood there doing nothing, strangers carried off Jacob's wealth. Foreigners entered his gates and threw dice for Jerusalem. You acted like one of them. Don't gloat over your relative's misfortune or be happy when the people of Judah are destroyed. Don't brag so much when they're in distress. There's a lot there.
Yeah.
Because, instantly when you do the dice rolling, your mind goes to New Testament and Yeshua and the dice that gets thrown there. And Judah, in 70 AD and 56 AD, Judah is destroyed. And Judah at the highest level. We just talked about this the other day in our Shabbat study. Herod is in the Edomite line, and he served as the high priest, unrightfully so. So I think that is in here. And then it's just this whole thing about why is Yah so angry at Esau? It's right here. Because he seemed to enjoy watching bad things happen to his relative.
Yep. He enjoyed doing violence to Jacob.
Mm-hmm. And you kind of see that, with Esau and how it describes him, and even how they meet up. And so just the whole Jacob and Esau thing just continues to be such a deal. It just doesn't go away. And it's because you find it all over Scripture. So there's more.
Don't march through the gates of my people when disaster strikes, or gloat over their misery when disaster strikes. Don't take their wealth when disaster strikes. Don't stand at the crossroads to kill their refugees. Don't hand over their survivors when they're in distress. The day of Yahweh is near for all nations. Edom, you will be treated as you have treated others. You will get back what you have given. As you, Israel, drank on my holy mountain, so all nations will drink in turn. They will drink and guzzle down everything in it. They will be like those who have never existed. But refugees will live on Mount Zion. It will be holy. The descendants of Jacob will get back their possessions. The descendants of Jacob will be like a fire. The descendants of Joseph will be like a flame, but the descendants of Esau will be like straw. They will be burned and destroyed. There will be no one left among the descendants of Esau. Yahweh has spoken.
And so here in 18, at the end of that, do we think that's happened, or is that a yet to happen thing?
I would think this is a yet to happen thing. Usually when it's talking people living on Mount Zion, that's usually talking at end time situation.
Well, yeah, there are people today that claim to be descendants of Esau, and so I do think that Esau is still here today, and this is very much talking about some end times judgment as well. That it's all going to get set right. What's been robbed from Jacob is going to be made right, and there's, like I said, there's so much to unpack here because it goes back to the garden, back to Adam and Eve and the promise, and it's that thing too, where what was lost is going to be restored and reclaimed. So the enemy took it, and Yah's taken it back, and he's given it to the people who wanted to. And so I think that's why this seed war is so important, because you see these enemies that set up at the beginning of the book, and then the final victory over those same enemies is what we'll see in the end days.
Yeah, and this Israel drank on my holy mountain. They will all the nations will drink in turn. This is alluding to the living water, which is in the New Jerusalem that streams out, and that's the drinking they're talking about here. It's also talking about all the nations coming to Messiah, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which it's interesting because it says the day of Yahweh is near for all nations. So Obadiah is saying it's near, so was there because I know a lot of times these things are cyclical.
Yeah.
In the sense that you could look at Babylon conquering conquering Judah in this kind of light. You can look at the destruction of the temple in this kind of light. But so I'm just kind of curious about the near there.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good observation. And it definitely happens in 586, happens in 70 AD. They get scattered into the wind twice, basically. Mm-hmm. And, still scattered. So, but anyway, Obadiah is interesting.
For sure. But it's definitely talking about a end times war scenario where the army of Yah is, like, if you look at verse 18, is the flame to the straw of Esau. So
Yeah. Which sounds a lot like what you see in Revelation and also in the life of Yeshua, where he talks about things being burned off like chaff, and
Right.
yeah. So that all fits, all checks. It's good. And then there's a little bit more. People from the Negev will take possession of Esau's mountain. People from the foothills will take possession of Philistia. They will take possession of the lands of Ephraim and Samaria, and the descendants of Benjamin will take possession of Gilead. Exiles from Israel will take possession of Canaan. They will possess the land as far as Zephyrath. Exiles from Jerusalem who are in Shephard will take possession of the cities of the Negev. Those who are victorious will come from Mount Zion to rule Esau's mountain. The kingdom will belong to Yahweh. So definitely, I think that's at the end.
yeah.
And so here you go. Here are these people that we've talked about: Philistia, Samaria. You see this Canaan. You see these names pop up again because they continue to be thorns in the flesh to Yah and his people, because they represent I believe they represent these fallen deities, and these deities, when you go back to look at how Yah divided his, Yah has definitely, what do you call that, a hierarchy. In his original hierarchy, he did put angels over provinces and parts of the world. And so the deities that are over these particular ones are definitely the ones that are part of the ones that have fallen, and they are hell-bent literally on trying to destroy Yah, his people, his land. They're trying to usurp his authority every opportunity they can, and it started at the beginning, and it's still going on today, and he'll finally put an end to it one day.
Right.
And that's why I say it hasn't happened, because I feel like when he puts an end to it, we're gonna know. It's not going to be we think it's going to be obvious. He's going to come down and hammer it and be like, okay, got it, that was you. So.
Right. Well, I mean, he's going to set up his throne on Mount Zion that anyone can come to. So, and
everyone will see it.
Right.
It can't be hidden. It goes back to that idea. It's the city on the hill that can't be hidden.
Right.
So, all right. So then we have this interesting connection with Abraham, Isaac, Esau, Eliphaz, and the Amalekites. We don't often put Abraham and Isaac, in the same sense as with them. But let's look at 1 Chronicles 35 and look at some of these giants that were in Canaan.
So 1 Chronicles 1:34-42. Abraham was the father of Isaac. Isaac's sons were Esau and Israel. Esau's sons were Eliphaz, Reuel, Jeush, Jalam, and Korah. Eliphaz's sons were Teman and Omar, Zephi, and Gatam, Kenaz, and Amalek, son of Timnah. Reuel's sons were Nahath, Zerah, Shammah, and Mizah. Seir's sons were Lotan, Shobal, Zibeon, Anah, Dishan, Ezer, and Dishan. Lotan's sons were Hori and Homam. Timnah was Lotan's sister. Shobal's sons were Elian, Manahath, Ebal, Shephi, and Onam. Zibeon's sons were Aya and Anah. Anah's son was Dishan. Dishan's sons were Hamran, Eshban, Ithran, and Cheran. Ezer's sons were Bilhan, Zaavan, Jaakan. Dishan's sons were Uz and Aran.
So definitely when I read this, I'm getting that this is just strictly Esau's sons here and his descendants, and he does mention Isaac, but he's listing out Esau's relatives. And so there was one name I think that stood out to us, and that's the Amalek.
Right.
So
you got Esau, Abraham, Isaac, Esau, and then Eliphaz and Amalek.
Mm-hmm.
So is this the Eliphaz of Job, or is this a different Eliphaz?
I don't know. That's a good question. Good question. Possibly. A lot of people say Abraham and Job were contemporaries. But I don't know. Interesting. If you know any of that, please let us know. And then Numbers 13, 28 through 29. But the people who live there are strong, and the cities have walls that are very large. We even saw the descendants of Anak there. The Amalekites live in the Negev. The Hittites, the Jebusites, the Amorites live in the mountain region, and the Canaanites live along the coast of the Mediterranean Sea along the Jordan. So here we go. We see the Amalekites, which makes sense that they're connected to a guy named Amalek.
Right.
So generally, they named them after those people. And the old rule of thumb is anytime you see the ites, they're bad. And they're not of Yah.
Right.
So,
except for the Israelites.
Yes, yeah, the Israelites, but there's this series of ites that that are bad.
Whenever it's in the series there.
Yeah, and but once again, going back to these enemies, the enemies of Yah, and they occupied this land, and make it very difficult for the children of Israel later, who were supposed to occupy it. These guys are already set up, and definitely it's done on purpose. It's like the wheat and tares that you see in Revelation. I believe this is connected as well. So these folks are like the tares, and they have set up to live amongst the wheat, and so that's unfortunately what happened many times with Israel, is they would set up camp with people and yoke themselves with people they weren't supposed to yoke themselves with, and then you basically have the wheat and the tares growing together in the same place. And so often it's just like a lot of times in public school, I've heard people make the argument today, well, my kid's going to be the light in the public school. And I like that, and I believe that. I thought that about my children, and I know that they did. But the pollution in the world sometimes is so powerful. It doesn't work that way. We might think it does, but anyway, different topic.
But also important.
Yeah. Were you looking up something there, Jake?
I was just looking up the word for strong there, and it's if you want me to go ahead and read it, I will. But I found it was, pretty accurate. It's Az, A-Z, and it's strong, mighty, fierce, vehement, harsh, greedy, mighty. So I was just curious if it had any harsh, cruel. I was wondering if it had any, gigantism to it.
Oh, well, it's interesting because people can look up words like that, and some of those words didn't sound, too bad. Some of them sound awful.
Right.
But mighty, doesn't sound bad. And we knew somebody one time that had a company, and he was a Christian, and he decided to name the company Nimrod. And he was like, I think this is a great name. It's strong. And we're like, we didn't know at the time, but now we know Nimrod, and we're like, oh, that's bad. He was strong, but it wasn't a good strong.
He was a mighty man, all right.
He was bad.
So you might say that it was kind of a Nimrod thing to do.
Yes, it was a Nimrod. And then yours, Deuteronomy 2, 9 through 11.
All right. Yahweh said to me, don't bother the people of Moab to start a war with them. I'm not giving you any of Ar as your property. I have given it to the descendants of Lot. The Emites used to live there. These people were as strong, as numerous, and as tall as the people of Anak. They were thought to be Rephaim, like the people of Anak, but the Moabites called them Emites. So they had these giant pirates running around.
Yeah. Arr.
That's what I'm getting.
So, definitely.
Moab, like Moabby Dick.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The classic.
That's right. But definitely more connections with these people that, he boots them off the land and gives it to somebody else. In this case, Lot. And so it's just kind of interesting because we don't give a lot of favorable attention. And here, this is clearly a blessing.
Yeah, Lot's story is interesting. Yeah, just it's interesting. So, go back, sorry. Yeah, so we know Rephaim is, and we've talked about this in the past, Anak and Rephaim are all very well spelled out as giants. So I think those two terms kind of are pretty clear what you're talking about.
Yeah. Definitely enemies of humanity and Yah.
Yep.
Psalms 135, 10 through 12. He is one who defeated many nations and killed mighty kings. King Shion of the Amorites, King Og of Bashan, all the kingdoms in Canaan. He gave their land as an inheritance to his people Israel. So the he here is Yahweh or Yahuwah.
Right.
So
interesting here. I think it's well understood that Og of Bashan is a giant, as well as the Amorites. But I think most of the time, the evidence people use for Og being a giant is his bed was 11 feet wide or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, I could fit in an 11-foot bed also.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Maybe he just liked a big bed.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, that ain't evidence of him being a giant.
Right.
You got to go further. You got to go deeper than that.
Yeah, but I do think he was.
I do too. And I think the bed was a point that he is a giant, but it doesn't just necessarily lead one to the other. Maybe he just liked a lot of bed space for his harem or something.
Maybe so.
Maybe that's what they were saying.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I believe this is the end of part 2, so I apologize if music plays here. Okay, so, who was Sidon, who was Tyre? And I don't think we fully answered that question, and we won't until next time.
Ooh.
So part 3, we'll go into a little more detail about making these connections, but we're just laying the groundwork, looking at some scriptures, trying to establish that there is indeed a connection between Esau, his descendants, and Sidon and Tyre.
Right.
So that's kind of the path we're wanting you to march down. So I think that's it on this. And Jake, what else we want to say?
So yeah, so go check out Sabbath Lounge. Check out part 1 if you missed that. And if you're to this point in the video and haven't seen part 1, it's too late. So
Too late.
Go watch it anyway. And then stick around for the next part in the series. Did you presume this will be 4 parts, something like that?
Yes, I believe 4 parts, and this is part 2 out of 4.
All right.
And we appreciate your patience and sticking with us, and we will put all these together in a playlist if you listen to this later, and this will probably be eventually on. We have a web page on Sabbath Lounge where we put things like this, and it will be in there. And once again, the PDFs and all that will be included, and the hyperlink should work to these sources if you want to check it out yourself. So, as always, Jake and I do not claim to be experts in this in anything, and we want you to study on your own and see if what we say is right.
That's right.
And we appreciate comments and likes, and appreciate our faithful following that stick with us week after week, and we thank you for all the comments and the nice words.
Right. Give the thumbs up and the subscribes, and tell your friends.
That's right. And please tell everybody you know about this podcast, and share it. And we always appreciate that. And rate us in different places. 5-star rating is always nice. And YouTube, Instagram, not Instagram, but all the places you can give a star rating. We appreciate it. So,
right.
Well, this is Matt
and Jake
signing out. Oh, I didn't do the intro video. We'll just have to end it here without the video.
No video.
All right. We'll see you later.